right, everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're coming at you with our week 9 preview, picks, fantasy football / betting plays for every single game of week 9. It's a late night, spooky Halloween episode. We're recording this late on Halloween night. So excited for the Halloween weekend, the spooky weekend. Some really good games this weekend. Really excited to get into it. Should be high scoring again, just like last week. How are you, Stores? How's your Halloween week so far?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I'm a big spooky guy. As Dan says, probably got all the spooky cereals and everything, a real Halloween guy over here. Whole house is decorated, hanging up lights outside, got a fun Halloween party tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to and I like how Halloween it sucks that it doesn't fall on like a Friday or Saturday every year, which it should. But Thursday is better than it's been. So, once we're getting towards that end of the week, Halloween, it's always better.
Yeah, getting cold as hell over here in Utah. It's starting to get real cold for this Halloween day. But let's get right into it. Our first Thursday night football game that will be on Halloween. By the way, we're both tied in picks right now, exactly dead even, which is pretty crazy. So we'll go on to the first game, the Thursday night football game. The 6-2 Houston Texans are going to go into New York, play the 2-6 Jets. Jets are 2-point favorites at home in this one. This is a really weird one to pick for me. I can't believe the Jets are favored in this game. I know there's no Nico Collins, no Stephon Diggs, so it is really hard to pick because CJ Stroud hasn't looked the same without Nico Collins, and now he won't have Diggs either. This one's almost impossible to pick for me. The line is really sus to me. Like I am really going back and forth on this Thursday night football game. This first game of the week might be the hardest game of the week to pick for me. The Jets would go to 2-7 if they lose. I mean, their season's over. If they lose this game, I'm gonna need you to say your pick first because I'm really still going back and forth. This is the one game I'm still undecided on and still thinking about.
Yeah, this it was tough, because it's like you said, if the Jets lose, their season's over. But however, I thought that the last couple weeks it was must-win games. So I think the Texans are a better football team. I think this Jets team is in shambles. I think Aaron Rodgers and the leadership and whatever's going down in this organization, it's like a plane, that just lost an engine and it's just spiraling out of control. And there's no pulling up on this plane. I'm sorry, Jets, and I'm sorry for the there's no pun intended there, but it does feel like a plane crashing to the ground. And this week might be what blows up. I mean, you just made a big trade for Devontae Adams, really hasn't done anything these last 2 weeks. I know they said if they win this game and they get the momentum, they might keep Mike Williams, but this might be where the Jets organization implodes. And I think CJ Stroud will be the guy to do that. I know you are missing Nico, you are missing Diggs, who sadly tore his ACL last week, which is brutal for him and brutal for fantasy owners who own Stephon Diggs. But yes, I will be riding with the Texans. I think Joe Mixon's got a really hot hand. I just think, D'Amico Ryans is going to scheme up some pressure on Aaron Rodgers and he's just going to get flustered.
I definitely agree. It feels like the Texans are obviously the better team. I'm gonna go with the spooky vibes though. On Halloween, I am gonna go with the Jets. There's just a suspicious feeling with this line. Vegas knows something, and I'm not gonna act like I know more than Vegas. It's a very weird one. It's 50-50 in New York. I am gonna take the Jets, who are in a must-win situation. I think Devontae Adams finally has a good game, gets his connection going with Aaron Rodgers. So give me the Jets in just a gross, scrappy game that they come away with at the very end. I'm very not confident on it at all, but I am just getting a weird feeling on this one. I was 50-50 coming into tonight. It's the one game I'm really undecided on. So I'm going to go with the Jets in just a weird game. And CJ Stroud hasn't looked the same without Nico Collins. And I think he should be back after this week, hopefully after the mini bye. Going into fantasy though, for the Texans, I'm not looking to start like Hutchinson or Mechie. I think it's really just Tank Dell, which is like a decent option just because of all the injuries. And then I'm not looking to start Dalton Schultz. I really just think it's Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, and I'm off of CJ Stroud. I am not starting CJ Stroud in this game personally. And then for the Jets, you're starting all the options. I think Devontae Adams gets going a little bit more in this one. You obviously are going to start him. Garrett Wilson's been great ever since Adams came over, and Brees Hall could be a league winner the way he's playing. So I'm starting all of them. Aaron Rodgers is kind of like a dart throw in this one if you think they could win. And I think that's about it in this one. No one else.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, yeah, you're riding with the hot hands with the Texans, and that is Dell and Joe Mixon, especially Joe Mixon. I can see Joe Mixon having himself a big game in this one. But yeah, the Jets, just to go back to your point, the Jets are they're due for a win. But it does as you talk through that they really are due for a win. I do have to just roll with the team that's got this. Their records are flipped 6-2, 2-6. I got to go with the 6-2 team. But yeah, this will be a spooky, fun Halloween game. And Dan, we didn't even you know we have to. This is an NFL podcast, but we got to acknowledge the World Series and what happened tonight.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even watch because I just assumed that the Dodgers were going through already. I mean, what even happened? Because I genuinely don't know.
Oh, the Yankees were up 4-0, and the Dodgers had a you know pretty big comeback. They ended up winning 7-6, and they won the World Series, which is painful for me as a Padres fan, where I thought we'd beat the Dodgers and we looked like the better team. But yeah, shout out to the Dodgers. Shout out to the West Coast team. They are an LA team, so I'm happy they beat the Yankees. So I mean that's one positive, but you know, wish it would have been the Padres.
Yeah, I guess our your Padres and my Mets both looked more competitive against the Dodgers than the Yankees. So there is something that we can leave with. We'll leave with something there. But yeah, off this game, it's spooky, spooky vibes. The Jets defense, speaking of spooky, is scary. I mean, that Jets defense ever since Sala left, bad. So that might be the reason I lose this pick. But I'm gonna stick with the Jets. Just weird vibes. I think they finally get something clicking, and then it kind of just falls off after in their season. We'll be over here pretty soon. But going on to the next game, a very exciting one. The 5-3 Denver Broncos are going to go into Baltimore, play the 5-3 Ravens. Ravens are 9.5 point home favorites in this one. A very, very big line. Vegas is telling us to bet on the Broncos against the spread. They're wanting us to, which is very suspicious. I think they think that the Ravens are going to dominate in this one. There could be a pounding in this one. I think it'll be a pretty close game, though. I mean, I wouldn't mind taking the Broncos against the spread. I think it will be a somewhat competitive game. The Broncos defense has been awesome. They haven't faced the best run game in the NFL, though. They haven't faced this dominant Ravens just team in general. This Ravens offense is just so good through the air, through the ground. They get Deontay Johnson in here. It's going to be a hard task for the Broncos, for the rookie quarterback on the road in Baltimore, as we saw Jaden Daniels do just a few weeks ago. Ravens are coming off that loss, though. They didn't look too impressive against Jameis Winston's Browns. It's a hard one to pick. I'll get my pick out of the way, though. Against the spread, I would take the Broncos because I think the Ravens will win by 6, but I'm going to pick the Ravens to win this football game. I think, just like I said, rookie on the road in Baltimore. I know this Ravens defense is abysmal and it's not the same culture and defense that Baltimore team usually has, but it's still going to be a tough environment. So I will go with the Ravens. That run game ultimately is why I choose them. I think it's the best run game in the NFL. I don't think it's stoppable. Obviously, right up there with the Lions, but just the aspect that Lamar Jackson brings with the beautiful passing MVP type football he's playing, with Derrick Henry playing damn near MVP type football. I sadly have to go with the Ravens as a Broncos fan. It will be a fun game though.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the records. The Ravens and the Broncos have the same record. I would have never guessed that, 8 weeks into the season. But like you said, yeah, I think I would pick the Broncos against the spread for sure. I think this is going to be a pretty competitive game. I mean, you just saw the Browns go into town and, they were able to, kind of look the Ravens in the face and, play a good chess game with them and end up on top. So, the Ravens are very beatable. Like you said, that hard-nosed scary defense doesn't seem to be there anymore. And there's some bad missed opportunities against Jameis Winston. Some bad drops, some bad drop picks, especially Kyle Hamilton. Just some terrible, boneheaded plays. And so I kind of feel like the Ravens have shown their Achilles heel, to where they're prone to making mistakes. They're not as clean of a football team as they have been in the past. And so yeah, I'm not super confident this is going to be a blowout. I think it'll be a closer game. I am going to side with the Ravens because, like you said, this run game, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry is different. This might be the best backfield we've ever seen in NFL history. I mean, the two scariest runners, literally at quarterback and at running back, sharing the backfield together is something truly inspirational and awesome to watch. So don't take it for granted every week because this won't last forever. I mean, this is an incredible, incredible run game that we're witnessing right now with the Ravens. But on the other side, Bo Nix playing good football, man. And watch out, he is sneakily been a very good runner and making plays out of nothing. So, but yeah, yeah, the Broncos are a good team and their defense is scrappy, but I just feel like the Ravens roster is just a little bit more talented, and that'll be the notch that puts them above.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Ravens roster in that run game. Lamar Jackson, 90.5 PFF grade, the first graded quarterback in the NFL. Derrick Henry, 91.8 PFF grade, the first graded running back in the NFL. So their backfield's literally just top rated by
And they
far.
just shout out the Ravens. Sorry to cut you off. Deontay Johnson. I don't know how much he'll play this week. He'll be on a snap count, but that was a big time move for being a competitive football team.
Yeah, like speaking of that roster, they get Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and Deontay Johnson, a very complimentary wide receiver trio. Isaiah Likely's the eighth rated PFF tight end, and Mark Andrews is finally starting to come on looking a lot healthier. So this offense is lethal, lethal, lethal. I mean, they are just a very scary offense, especially on paper. The defense, though, a different story. The defense is pretty bad. So I think the Broncos offense will be able to get theirs. I think, like you said, Bo Nix will get a lot on the ground in this one. I think he'll actually, I would take his overs rushing. I think he's going to run a lot in this game specifically. I think Cortland Sutton has a really good game. No Marlon Humphrey. It might be Nate Wiggins out there if he's healthy enough. And I do think Cortland Sutton has a great game going into fantasy. I'm definitely starting Cortland Sutton against this Ravens secondary, which has been one of the worst in the NFL, which is crazy to even say. But I mean, that Zach Orr defense has been a struggle. So I would start Sutton. I wouldn't start Javante. It's just not the easiest matchup for a running back that the Broncos will probably be down and needing to pass the majority of this game. So I think Bo Nix is a good streamer. I am considering starting him. I think Jordan Love plays. So I'm deciding between the two. I might bench him, but I mean, I don't know. On the road in Baltimore, it's a tough matchup for him, but he's been playing great. He's a top 12 quarterback in fantasy right now. So Sutton and Bo Nix aren't bad plays for the Ravens. Obviously, you're not starting Deontay Johnson in his first game back against a really good secondary with Patrick Surtain back. Zay Flowers you can start because he just is great volume. He's great in a 12-team option. And then obviously Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, don't need to talk about. And I think Mark Andrews is a start, which is crazy from where we were the first few weeks.
Yeah, Mark Andrews actually looking really good. He's looking like he's starting to get into his, yeah, like you said, the health is back. He's starting to really get his role back in this offense. And, Todd Monken's finally starting to utilize him like he should. So it's good to see that. Just one quick question for you. Do you think, are you, you think Deontay Johnson is a go trade for candidate? Do you think his volume goes up in Baltimore, or do you think it plummets in Baltimore?
I feel like with that trade, Lamar Jackson's value goes up, but Zay Flowers and Deontay Johnson kind of go down. I think he'll be about the same. I think he'll just be like Rashad Bateman. He'll just be really inconsistent. He'll have weeks for sure, but just with the amount that this team runs the ball, it's kind of like the Packers now where they have so many options that they have to spread it around to with like Likely and Bateman as those outside options as well. I think it's not the most exciting for Deontay Johnson. Are you trading for him? I'm personally probably not.
No, I was gonna say personally, if I had him on my fantasy team, I think now would be a good time to trade him. I
Mhm.
feel like his value will peak this week, because of the trade excitement and everything. So, given what you can get for a Deontay Johnson, because I don't think he's gonna get that type of volume, where he was with Andy Dalton those few weeks where he looked really, really solid. I think that is gonna completely plummet. I think we might see Deontay Johnson, like you said. I think we'll have some spike weeks, and I think we'll have some really low weeks. And the low weeks for the Baltimore Ravens receivers like 2.7 points. So, the highs are high and the lows are low. So it's just something I'm not willing to take on. And personally, I think the only safe one, honestly, in this Baltimore Ravens, passing game is Mark Andrews at this point. Just because I feel like, the tight ends, they seem to have a consistent role utilizing them, and the receivers are just all over the place.
Yeah, really like Mark Andrews. And yeah, I think this trade really just solidifies Lamar Jackson as the number one quarterback in fantasy, really league winner. He is just incredible, incredible. Well, let's go on to the next game. A really fun AFC East division battle. The 2-5 Miami Dolphins are going to go into Buffalo, play the 6-2 Bills, who are 6-point home favorites in this one. And this is damn near a must win for the Dolphins, obviously coming off that close loss to the Cardinals. Don't know how they lost that game, but they blew it, and now they're in must-win territory really every single week. The one problem is we all know how dominant the Bills have been against the Dolphins for the last decade. I mean, they can't buy a win against the Bills. Tua even cannot buy a win against this Buffalo team. The Bills secondary has been playing pretty solid. The run defense has a lot to be desired, but I mean, I'll get my pick right out of the way because you can't pick the Dolphins plausibly to beat the Buffalo Bills. I mean, ever. We went through this week too. I'm sure we both picked the Bills, and I mean, we went over the statistics of how the Dolphins have beaten them like 3 times in the last 15 years or whatever it is. Obviously, you gotta just pick the Bills, even if you could see like there is a world where the Dolphins win on paper. They're a great team. They have Tua back. But I mean, you can't. The Bills just have their number. Josh Allen's still there, playing great football. James Cook is playing great football. The Bills defense is playing solid. The secondary is playing great. You got to pick the Bills, man.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, if you go watch our week 2 video, we gave you all the Josh Allen stats against the Bills, and it's been pretty dominant. And yeah, like you said, they can't buy a win over the Bills. The Bills have their number. If you look at the Dolphins' Achilles heel, it has it's tattooed Josh Allen's face on it. And I don't think that changes. Sean McDermott, he knows how to game plan and he knows how to scheme against this, Mike McDaniel offense. And so, they have their number. It's been like this forever, and I don't foresee it changing. And the Bills coming off of a dominant win against the Seattle Seahawks, while the Dolphins, coming off of a pretty scummy, gross looking game against the Cardinals. I do expect them to get better and to clean stuff up. But yeah, Josh Allen owns the Dolphins.
Yeah, Tua was a little bit rusty. His connection with the receivers, especially, was a little bit rusty. Obviously, that'll get better each week. But I mean, in Buffalo, it's just such a tough matchup against the secondary that's been playing great. Benford, Douglas. It's a tough one, man. Going into fantasy, obviously, you're really excited about Achane in the 3 weeks with Tua. He's gotten over 25 points, just an insane amount of receiving volume. He's been a better receiver than Waddle in those 3 games. So you're excited about obviously Achane, Tyreek Hill. You're inserting as a top 3 receiver option. I think Waddle's a fine flex play. Definitely not bad at all. He will get volume. They probably will be down the entire game and throwing the hell out of the ball. So I'm fine starting all the Dolphins for that reason. Obviously, not too excited about Waddle, but those are the 3 for the Dolphins. Not starting Tua in the specific matchup that we know it's a rough one for him historically. And then for the Bills, obviously, Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, you can start. Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir are not bad starts at all. I would maybe bold, but I think I'd rather start Khalil Shakir and then Keon Coleman and then Amari Cooper. That's kind of how I'm ranking these Bills receivers, at least right now, until we prove that Amari Cooper can get more volume. That's how I see it. But I am totally fine starting those 2. And then Amari Cooper, I'm kind of borderline with. If I'm really desperate, I could play him, but I'm kind of waiting for him to prove it before.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I don't think Amari Cooper and Josh Allen's, connection is there yet. I don't know if Amari Cooper hasn't picked up, the playbook. But yeah, I mean, last week only getting 2 targets against the Seahawks team that they really utterly dominated was definitely disappointing. Obviously, his first week, it was a little bit, saturated by that touchdown, and that was a little like 18-yard touchdown, so he had the 66 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. I think I would go Shakir, Coleman, then Amari Cooper. Till we get that connection. That won't be the case all year long. I think you give it another 2 weeks and you let, Amari Cooper get comfortable in this offense. And, I expect big things from him and Josh Allen because I think it's gonna be fun. And like you said, yeah, the Dolphins offense, it should be a pretty fun game. I hope this ends up turning into, a shootout. I'd love to see a Josh Allen to a shootout. I can feel it, I can feel it in the air. I want it. We want to see it. And that's what I hope it ends up being. So I think the fantasy options in this one should be really exciting. But I also see a world where the Bills just dominate and they're just into his head. But I'm rooting for a shootout, so I'm gonna say yeah, let's start everyone in fantasy.
Yeah, definitely take the overs on everyone. You want to be involved in this game with your fantasy lineups as well, just because even if the Bills do, which you can kind of see it, just score a ton early, then the Dolphins will be chasing the entire game, throwing the hell out of the ball. So should be a lot of passing volume in this fun matchup. Let's go on to the next one. Another fun game. 3-4 Dallas Cowboys are going to go into Atlanta, play the 5-3 Falcons, who are 2.5 point home favorites in this one. Sneakily, almost a coin flip to me. I might have lied that first game I was a little bit undecided on, and this one I'm still a little bit undecided on. I don't know why, but the way that CD played at the end of that 49ers game, Dak and CD finally started to click at the end of that game. It is kind of resonating with me. It's making me want to pick them. They do play better on the road. Deron Bland should be back this week, which is a big boost, obviously, with the way that Kirk played a few weeks ago against the Seahawks. This is a tough one, honestly, for me. I will say, like, I'm so torn on it. If Micah Parsons plays, I am gonna pick the Cowboys. It's looking like he's a long shot to play, so I will say I'm tentatively picking the Falcons at home, just the better overall team that's clicking better, obviously, at the 5-3 record. I will pick the Falcons, but if Micah Parsons does play, which is a long shot, I will pick the Cowboys because I think if they get all those stars back, they'll be really hyped up to get Parsons and Bland back on that defense. They should play better, create some more turnovers, especially in this matchup. I think Kirk has a turnover or two in him. If those two play with Dak, CD starting to get that better clicking connection. Hopefully Rico Dowdle's healthy and back. He will be back, so hopefully he gets more involved. So I'm really torn on this, as you can tell. But yeah, I'm very close on it. But give me the Falcons unless Micah Parsons plays.
Yeah, I'm definitely going the Falcons, no matter what. This Cowboys team, very, very disappointing to me, on the year. Very disappointing, last 5 years. I mean, this is a team that's had very, very good rosters, but at this point, their roster is definitely tanked from its previous form. The coaches have definitely gone downhill. You've lost Kellen Moore. You've lost Dan Campbell. So it's a team going down in the downward spiral, not an upward spiral. And so, yeah, I just think there's a few really, really incredible football players, very top heavy, and the rest of the roster is just can't keep up with it. So it doesn't balance itself out. And on the other side, I think the Falcons actually have a very good roster. I think they're very balanced out. I think they've got a lot of talent. I think their coaching staff is up and coming, and I expect them, to go out there and have a game against the Cowboys. And I think Kirk, Halloween Kirk, I could see the chain coming out. I can see, some gold teeth, and I could see him throwing for 400 yards. I think this Dallas Cowboys defense is vulnerable, and I could see him having a big game. And just going into fantasy, I think Kirk Cousins is kind of a start going forward in most leagues. I think he's, a top 10 quarterback. He has the weapons. I mean, and shout out Kyle Pitts, man. For all of you Kyle Pitts believers who just hung on there and have started him, it looks like he's finally coming into form. It's been years of pain. It's been years of hyping Kyle Pitts up and waiting for, the breakout. And, the last couple of weeks, I think we might be there, Dan. I hate to jinx it. I'll knock on hard wood because I got a wood table right here. But I think Kyle Pitts might be good.
He's looking like it. He's looking like he is a locked and loaded top 8 tight end right now, which is obviously great to say. He's a great dynamic part of this offense. He's really involved downfield now, like he wasn't at the beginning of the season. So yeah, I think obviously going into fantasy, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, they're all smash plays. Darnell Mooney's a smash play as well. The reason I'm so torn on this game is I think it's going to be a very high scoring shootout that it's going to be back and forth, could go either way. And the reason Micah Parsons kind of changes it for me is I think he can make that game winning, game changing turnover play. But after looking at it on Twitter, it's looking like he's gonna miss this game, probably be back next week. So yeah, give me the Falcons in a very close back and forth battle. I'm gonna take the Falcons at home. I think Bijan Robinson could be the difference in this one just because that Cowboys run defense is so abysmal. Obviously, Mozzie Smith, the last rated defensive lineman in PFF, just terrible, just a terrible run defense, really terribly coached, terrible. And then Deron Bland should help, but obviously Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts are playing great football. Kirk Cousins will get a slight edge. I think it's going to be a close, high scoring shootout, but give me the Falcons. And you're starting all the Falcons for the Cowboys. It's really just CeeDee Lamb. I don't. You could start Dak. I'm not excited about it in this matchup, though. It's not a bad matchup. I think they will score a lot. And then Rico Dowdle's kind of that flex dart throw. He's going to get a lot of volume. So if you need a nice floor, I think Rico Dowdle's got that. And I think that's about it. I'm not looking to start Tolbert.
Yeah, one thing I'm gonna say is watch out for Bijan Robinson coming back to Texas, man. I feel like this could be a good homecoming back, to where he played college. Um, I just want to throw this out there for any betting things. I think you hit all the overs on Bijan Robinson. I feel like when guys go back home, they tend to go off, and a guy like Bijan who's just he's had some big touchdowns and stuff called back. I think, this might be his biggest game of the year and against a very vulnerable defense.
Yeah, it just feels like the perfect matchup for a nice little Bijan breakout game. I agree. Take those overs. Really excited about Bijan, Drake London, Pitts, Mooney. You're excited about these options. It should be high scoring, fun battle. Let's go on to the next game. The 4-3 Los Angeles Chargers are going to go into Cleveland, play the 2-6 Browns with Jameis Winston coming off that win against the Ravens. Uh, Chargers are 1.5 point favorites on the road here, obviously coming off the win as well. So two teams feeling good, coming off wins. Talk about this one.
This feels like a trap game, man. Jameis Winston in the dog pound. This one makes me a little bit nervous. Yeah, I think, I think the line is fair right there. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. The Chargers typically don't play well in Cleveland. I have flashbacks of Nick Chubb just running for 250 yards and two 80-plus yard touchdowns. It's just, I have flashbacks of terrible, terrible things. However, I think it is just going to be, I don't know. I want to say, the Chargers offense has really pumped up their passing game. They've started to throw the ball in the last 2 weeks on 70% of their downs, which is 20% more than what they've done all year. And then the Browns over here have a resurgence of life finally with Deshaun Watson going down and having a quarterback that has no problem being a gunslinger. I mean, we got Jameis Winston is, he's a reincarnated Brett Favre. Just not as good, Brett Favre. But he does not care. He will throw the ball down the field. He'll throw interceptions, but he will put up points for this team. I mean, you keep doing it and it pays off. So Jameis Winston is, he's a new shining star of light for this, terrible, sad Browns organization that just suffers through, pain every single year. But yeah, I will go on this long spiel. I will pick my Chargers. I think Jesse Minter will capitalize off of some of those boneheaded Jameis Winston plays. I think the Chargers will win the turnover battle. Justin Herbert has only thrown one interception on the year, so the Chargers are taking care of the ball. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah goes down in last game. I don't think did we get an injury in those updates? He was pretty. I think he's out for multiple weeks, right?
I believe so. Let me look real quick, but I do think he's gonna miss.
Yeah, he's a big part of this Browns defense. So I think the Chargers can take advantage of pretty banged up Browns. I was looking at their injury report and they're pretty banged up. Also the Chargers are, but I feel like the turnovers and you know, the Chargers just played such clean football, just minimizing turnovers, capitalizing on mistakes. And so I just feel like that's ultimately going to be the difference. But I could see this game turning into a shootout because, Jameis Winston, he's just going to keep throwing the ball and the Chargers have found that they have more success throwing the ball than they do running the ball, which is not Harbaugh football.
Yeah, you said that perfectly. Jameis Winston, first of all, he had a lot of turnover-worthy plays last week. The Ravens couldn't capitalize on them, but obviously this Chargers defense is just a lot better than the Ravens defense. So it's a hard one to pick. Obviously, the Vegas line indicates that it could be a trap game. It's kind of a toss-up with the way that Jameis is this team rallying around him. Obviously, the team just wasn't buying into playing with Deshaun Watson at the beginning of the year. I am going to pick the Browns just because it's such a 50-50 game. I like going with the home teams. Obviously, they just beat the Ravens at home as well. So I'm going to stick with the team in the dog pound. Not confident on it because the Chargers defense really is playing really, really good. But I do think Jameis is just going to sling the hell out of the ball. Maybe take away from the Chargers type of play that they're playing with currently, the way that they want to play. So I am going to take the Browns, just kind of a dart throw. I do think Jameis has a fun game here, and they kind of start rolling with buying into Jameis and really playing for Jameis. Hopefully, Nick Chubb gets a little bit healthier. Hasn't looked the greatest, but I could see him scoring in this one. But yeah, it's really just a 50-50 game. I'm going to take the Browns, though, not too confident on it. But Justin Herbert has been playing incredible football. Honestly, he's been playing like a top quarterback, just carrying that Chargers offense, and he's definitely going to keep them in every game, really, and especially this game. It will come down to the end, but I do see a game-winning field goal at home and just some weird ending happening. I can just see it.
Yeah, it feels like a game it's going to be of a previous Chargers Browns game, and typically the Browns have played really good against the Chargers. The year that the Browns almost went 0-17, they they beat their win was against the Chargers. So they've typically had the Chargers numbers. Kevin Stefanski does, he's still a really good coach. However, if Deshaun Watson was playing this game, I think it would have been a lock. I think it might have been my bloody murder game of the week, but Jameis Winston does bring that light. It should be pretty competitive and getting into a fantasy aspect. I think you got to start the receivers in this, man. The Chargers have a banged up secondary. It's Tariq Steele and Cam Hart who are playing really good football with Jesse Minter. But I think we're gonna have another week without Christian Fulton. Asante Samuel's obviously out. So those Browns wide receivers, Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, could have some big games. They could have some big games. And on the other side, Lad McConkey, a hell of a week against the Saints. Absolutely, it was his breakout game. I think he is a slam start every single week. And J.K. Dobbins obviously is a must start. And then on the Chargers offense, Will Disley, Josh Palmer, it's outside of Lad McConkey. I'm a little iffy on who I want to start. Will Disley's target share has been insane. So I think, given your tight end situation, he may be a smart play because he has received 7 or more targets in the last 3 games. However, Hayden Hurst might be back in this game. I really don't think it affects. I think Justin Herbert feels comfortable throwing to Will Disley. But a Chargers wide receiver too, I think it's kind of 50-50. There's going to be Josh Palmer or Simi Fehoko, so I'm kind of staying away from that.
Yeah, personally for the Chargers, you hit it on the head. I'm taking Lad McConkey. Dobbins is must starts. Disley, if you're really down bad at tight end, he's a great option just because of the volume that's hard to find at that position. And the Justin Herbert is honestly a pretty solid start this week. I was deciding between him, Jameis, and Bo Nix, ironically, two guys in this game. Still kind of going back and forth. But I do think Justin Herbert is actually a pretty solid start in this one. And for the Browns, you nailed it. I really am only starting Cedric Tillman. I think Elijah Moore and Jerry Jeudy in that order are kind of just really, really deep dart throws. I
Yeah.
just don't think their ceilings are as high as Cedric Tillman, who will be playing downfield, probably scoring at least one touchdown every week just because of the way he plays. I think Jameis Winston's a solid start, honestly. His projections aren't that high, so I think he's a good just pickup and stash really because I think he's going to throw for multiple touchdowns each week. Nick Chubb, I'm not starting. I got to see just physical improvement from him. He does not look explosive at all. So hopefully Nick Chubb falls in the end zone. He's a fun story, but I don't see him having too much of an impact. So covered fantasy perfectly in that one. Anything else you want to say?
No, it should be a pretty fun game. And like you said, the spooky feels are all in the air for this.
Yeah, spooky vibes in the dog pound for sure for that one. Should be fun to watch. We'll go on to the 6-2 Washington Commanders going into New York playing the 2-6 Giants, NFC East division battle. The Redskins are 4-point road favorites in this one, coming off that Hail Mary win. Will they be kind of hungover off that crazy Hail Mary win, the emotional, crazy victory? It will be interesting to see. The Giants defense has been playing a lot better, especially since the last time these two teams faced. The Giants probably would have won that game if they just had a kicker in that game. So it is going to be, closer than you would expect for a 6-2 versus 2-6 teams facing off. But give me the Commanders, man. Jaden Daniels is playing beautiful football. The Commanders defense, speaking of the Giants defense being impressive, the Commanders defense has been really impressive. I was not expecting it at the beginning of the season. They played pretty bad, but they are playing some really solid football. Dan Quinn has found the guys that he wants out there for him. So give me the Commanders. They're figuring a lot of things out. They have a lot of borderline players like Zach Ertz, just really stepping up and playing some really, really solid football. So give me the Washington Commanders to win this division battle and keep rolling.
Yeah, I'm 100% on your side with this one. I think, the first time these teams played, it was competitive. It was a good game, and the Commanders won off of like 7 field goals made. And they didn't even score a touchdown. But, the Commanders have really started to get their games flowing, really started to get playing together as a team. Jaden Daniels is just looking like rookie of the year. And the aura is just on his side, man. I mean, the luck and everything is just on the Commanders' side, and I don't see it changing. They look like a bona fide playoff lock and a team that can go win a playoff game with a rookie quarterback in year one. So very impressed. On the other side, the Giants are going to be the Giants, man. It's just, when I say, the coin's falling on the right side of the Commanders, it's not doing the same thing for the Giants. It's just tough over there in New York. I almost feel bad for this franchise, and it's like, they can't get themselves out of this hole. I mean, they got a bona fide superstar receiver in Malik Neighbors, who's going to be a top 10, 5 wide receiver. for the next 10 years. So that's something to build around your franchise. But there's got to be a new face. Drew Lock is starting this game, right?
No, no, it's Daniel
Oh,
Jones. That
oh,
would
really?
probably change things, but no, it's Daniel Jones.
Oh, I swear I saw some news about Drew Lock actually maybe getting a start, but maybe it was just maybe I got trolled.
Yeah, I think you got trolled. They announced that it was definitely going to be Daniel Jones. I think they're just gonna because they paid him. They kind of just their front
Yeah.
office is kind of forcing it. But yeah, it will be Jones, which is a big reason why I'm picking the Commanders.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, it's just a better football team. It's a good football team versus a bad football team, and I'm picking the good football team.
Yeah, if it was Drew Lock injecting some excitement into this team at home, I actually would be intrigued to pick the Giants because it will be close. But give me the Commanders. The Daniel Jones just hasn't been dynamic, hasn't been pushing the ball downfield. Just he hasn't been playing great football, man. So give me the Commanders who have been playing some great, great football on both sides of the ball. Obviously, coming off an emotional, crazy victory. It should be an interesting matchup here going into fantasy. Starting Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz is a great start at tight end. Brian Robinson losing some steam, but I think you still start him if he goes. And then I'm probably not starting Eckler right now. Going for the Giants, though, it's just Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy. I think Tracy's a pretty solid start. Obviously, Neighbors is a great start, losing some momentum and steam as well, just because of Daniel Jones and the incompetency. But I think that's all the starts in this one.
Yeah, I think you just said it. And like I said, good football team versus bad football team. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, don't need to go too deep into this game. It should be pretty straightforward in that divisional matchup. Let's go on to the next divisional matchup, the NFC South matchup. The 2-6 New Orleans Saints are going to go into Carolina, play the 1-7 Panthers. The Saints are 7-point road favorites in this one. It's going to be Derek Carr versus Bryce Young. It looks like Derek Carr will be back, which is a big, big boost for the Saints. I mean, obviously, you can get the picker right out of the way. Derek Carr versus Bryce Young. Enough said. So give me the Saints just like they did in week one, where they just rolled over the Panthers. I think they have a great game in this one with Derek Carr back. There's going to be a lot of excitement. I think they score upwards of 30, 35, 37 points. This Panthers defense is just such a funnel. I mean, it's a fantasy football just dream. They just give up so many fantasy football points. I just am really excited for the Saints team. I think I'm starting the Saints defense against Bryce Young, especially that it is Bryce Young over Andy Dalton. I'm excited about the Saints in this one, man. I think they really just dominate. Obviously, it's in Carolina, so that's hopefully they can get something going. Bryce Young showed some promise with Xavier Legette against the Broncos, but you got to pick the Saints.
So funny is, just looking back to the first time this team played, and after week two, we had the Saints in our power rankings, or not our power rankings, but most people have Saints in their power rankings is like the number one team. It's just kind of crazy, But I kind of say this one is bad football team versus bad football team, but one team's a little bit better. And yeah, it is the Saints. There's not too much to talk about it. If you would have listened to us last week, I believe we told you to go trade for Chris Olave. Maybe you can still go buy on Chris Olave, but with no Raheed Shaheed, Derek Carr back, I mean, he had 18.7 fantasy points with Spencer Rattler and Jake Hayner. I think we're in for a big, big showing of Chris Olave. So if you can go buy him before, Sunday starts, go get Chris Olave. I think he could actually be a league winner.
Yeah, I think he is a league winner in the back half of the season with no Shaheed. I think Derek Carr is going to feed the hell out of him. No Bub Means as well. Chris Olave will have a great game. Go right into fantasy. Obviously, Chris Olave is a great start. Alvin Kamara with Carr backs, a top three running back start again. So you're very happy about that as a Kamara owner. Don't know if there's anyone else I'm starting for the Saints. I think it's just those two, not really playing around with Carr or any of the ancillary options for the Saints. For the Panthers, I think you can start Leggett just because, no Deontay Johnson. I think you can start Adam Thielen, who Bryce Young loved to feed last year, but you're not excited about it because it is Bryce Young out there at the end of the day. I don't think this Panthers team scores too much. I think Chuba Hubbard, you can continue to start, but Jonathan Brooks looks like he might be making his season debut in this one. So definitely monitor that for Chuba owners. Maybe sell high on him right now before that news really starts to break. But I'm not excited to start anyone on this team, to be completely honest, except for possibly Chuba, possibly.
Yeah, I think you just said that perfectly right. I don't even know if I want to start Chuba. I think
Yeah.
this is just a bad game for the Panthers offense in general. So stay away from it. And like you said, the Saints defense is a good flex play defense this week. So, insert them if they're still on the waiver.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to pick them up in all my leagues against Bryson. I'm targeting that matchup. And the Panthers are in sell mode, so don't need to talk about this game. They just sold Deontay Johnson. They're going to sell some players here at the deadline. Going on to the next game, a more competitive game, possibly the 2-6 Vegas Raiders are going to go into Cincinnati, play the 3-5 Bengals. Crazy, they're only one game apart in the AFC. The Bengals are 7-point favorites at home in this one. And I mean, I'll just get kind of a bold take out of the way. I think this is just the lock of the week. I think the Bengals run away with this game. I don't even think it's relatively close. Maybe, it'll be somewhat close. Maybe they can cover the spread and lose by 6 or something. But I'm very confident the Bengals win this game. So add this one to your parlays because I do think this is an absolute lock of the week. I don't say this too often, but I'm very confident that the Bengals win this football game. Their offense is just so much better than this Raiders defense, which has just been a dream matchup as well for offenses. So I think the Bengals will have one of their best games of the year offensively. I have 100% confidence, and Antonio Pierce just isn't very competent. So I think Gardner Minshew, Antonio Pierce against Joe Burrow, the Bengals, who are in a must-win now mode. Pretty easy to pick the Bengals, really.
Yeah, I think like you said, this Bengals offense is humming. They can take advantage of a weak Raiders defense. And I think it's gonna be a big week for these fantasy options. So I mean, obviously T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, smash plays. I think Chase Brown is even a really good play for this week. Not yet there on Mike Gesicki, even though he had some incredible catches and he got a fair target share last week against the Eagles. That was just some weird voodoo with tight end week for George Kittle's holiday. I think it was just weird voodoo with all the tight ends just absolutely eating. But yeah, like you said, I feel pretty damn confident in this one. It is a must win for the Bengals. The Raiders are turning in the wrong direction. Antonio Pierce should be a fire candidate at this point of the year. I think you need to move off of him. I get why they won't. That'd be 2 years in a row firing a coach mid-season. But I think you do need to get off him. I think it's the locker room has turned toxic. Getting rid of Devontae Adams, I don't think was a very good move for this organization. And so, must win for the Bengals. They want it more. I just feel like the Bengals want it and need it so much more than the Raiders care.
Yeah, and just a far better team on paper as well. Monitor T. Higgins going into fantasy. Obviously, if T. Higgins plays, he's averaging over 16 points per game. You got to start him and just hope that he doesn't get that re-injury risk that he, kind of has had lingering the last few years. But T. Higgins is a smash play in this matchup if he goes. If not, I think that's when you start Mike Gesicki. It seems like Gesicki does good whenever T. Higgins doesn't play. So if T. Higgins doesn't go, I can start Gesicki. If not, I'm staying away from him. Jamar Chase, obviously, smash play. I think Chase Brown's a very solid start with a nice floor, especially in this matchup. You got to just smash start Chase Brown, really. I think Joe Burrow's a great play in this matchup. And then for the Raiders, very cut and dry. It's just Brock Bowers. And then if you want to start Alexander Madison, if you have absolutely no one else just for the volume, because he is their starting running back, you can. He should get a nice receiving floor in this specific matchup where they should be down. But those are the only two I'm thinking about.
Yep,
Oh,
you
and
said
Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers.
yep. All perfect. 100% agree.
Yeah, I think Jacoby Myers has got a nice floor, honestly. They will be throwing a lot in this game. I'm playing against Jacoby Myers, so he should be a lock for a touchdown, like always. But let's go on to the last of the early games. The 2-6 New England Patriots are going to go into Tennessee, play the 1-6 Titans. Titans are 3.5-point home favorites in this one, which is interesting. It looks like it will be Will Levis, and I do expect Drake May to go. He did get a limited practice in today, so this one's kind of just a coin flip of mid to me. Like I'm really going back and forth, struggling to pick this one. But with Levis playing, which I do think it is, I do think he will. I will pick the Patriots. I think with Brissett or Drake May, I think it will be Drake May, and that makes me a lot more excited about that pick. They're just better players than Will Levis. If Rudolph goes, I'm less confident on it. I'm still going to pick the Patriots, but I think it would be really competitive with Rudolph. So I mean, it's hard because we don't know either if either of the quarterbacks are going to be playing in this one. But I will take the Patriots regardless. I just think that they're a better team. They're playing better. We saw it against the Jets last week. They really rallied against the Jets team that was in a win now mode in that division game. So I will go with the Patriots on the road here. The Lions scares me a little bit. The Vegas seems to know something here, going with the home team. But I can't pick Will Levis, especially over Drake May if he plays. I think Drake May has a great showing against the secondary. The Titans team just feels crazy incompetent to me. They just have a lot of problems going on in that team. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. Not too confident on it. It does feel like a little bit of a coin flip of mid, like I said, but I'm going to go with Drake May and the Patriots.
I'm with you. I'm going to take the dogs in this one. And yeah, I mean, the Patriots just had a really good performance against the Jets, and I think their defense played very, very admirably. So yeah, I feel confident in this team. Like you said, the quarterback play, if it's Drake May, I'm feeling extra confident. I feel like they're going to be able to put points on the board, minimize the mistakes. And, this defense is going to take advantage of Will Levis doing something ridiculous and boneheaded. So yeah, I feel more confident in the Patriots, which is kind of crazy to say, but yeah, it is a week of mid versus mid. But I like the Gerard Mayo. I like the culture of the Patriots a little bit better to you know to go and handle business.
And going into fantasy, obviously Tony Pollard's a great play just with the lock to get over 20 carries. It just gets so much volume. You can definitely start Pollard. And then the only other option I'm thinking about is Ridley. Obviously, he looks like a great start because of last week, but Christian Gonzalez will be shadowing him since he's the only receiver on the Titans. So that scares me a little bit. Obviously, Christian Gonzalez really limited. Devontae Adams last week completely shut down Adams. So really does scare me. Like if you, I don't think he's like a four star that you have to go out of your way to start him, but in like a 12 team deeper league, two flex, I think you can start Calvin Ridley. There's worse starts just because of the volume that he should be getting with no other receivers on this team. And then for the Patriots, Ramondre coming off the big week, I think this is a good matchup for him where they can run the football. So give me Ramondre. I'm not starting any of the receivers really right now. I need the targets to kind of even themselves out, and I need Drake May to prove who his favorite guy is. And I think that's it. Hunter Henry could be started. I think Hunter Henry is actually a great start with Drake May only.
Surely, Dan, Pop Douglas is going to pop off, right? Because you traded him this week.
Probably with my luck, yeah, Pop Douglas will get another nine target, 120 receiving yard type of game. But I don't know if I would tell anyone to start him right now, unless you're really throwing a dart.
Unless you really want to go against the Dan luck. Me and Dan did do a trade this week. Have to shout it out. A pretty boring, modest trade, but I did ship off Keenan Allen to Dan for Pop Douglas. So we'll see. We'll see who ends up winning that trade, but something to monitor if you're a big Seekers fan. Let us know. Let us know who you think won.
Yeah, let us know who won that trade. Feels like two dart throws. Speaking of that trade, going off of Demario Douglas's Patriots, we'll go on to the next team, Keenan Allen's Bears, who are 4-3, go into Arizona, play the 4-4 Cardinals, who are 1.5 point home favorites in this one. I lied. This is the third game that I'm still back and forth on. I still am a little bit undecided on. There's a few games this week that are really hard for me to pick. Obviously, the Bears haven't looked the greatest, especially on the road. Their offense hasn't looked the greatest offensively. Their offensive line hasn't been the greatest. Their defense is incredible. So it is a tough matchup for the Cardinals. But the Cardinals started to click offensively a little bit in Miami last week, obviously getting the win, sneaking out a win against a good Chargers defense as well. A few weeks ago, this is a really tough one to me. I I was gonna pick the Bears at first, but I'm actually gonna pick the Cardinals. I just think that they've been a little bit more impressive the last few weeks to me. I think the Bears really played pretty bad against the Commanders, honestly. They really were disappointing to me. Obviously their defense is incredible. I expect, all their stars to really show up. But I think in the low scoring, back and forth, just kind of slot fest, I am gonna pick the Cardinals, the home team. I think Kyler Murray maybe pulls something out of his pull some tricks out of his hat. I think Caleb has the same ability to do so. Obviously, in any given week, Caleb could do some really fun things, and this isn't a bad matchup for the Bears to do pretty solid. But I am going to take the Cardinals in just a weird coin flip of a pretty solid matchup.
I'm going to go on the other side of this one, and I feel confident that the Bears defense is going to get Kyler Murray off scheduled enough to just, let their offense just squeak out some points to win. I feel like this is honestly not going to be a very high scoring game. I feel like the Bears defense is just so good, and the Bears kind of play to their competition is what I've seen so far this year. They kind of play to whoever they're playing, which is necessarily not a very good thing. But yeah, they'll play up to their level of competition, or they'll play down to their level of competition. They'll just make it tight in almost every single game. But yeah, that defense has allowed Caleb Williams, to get his rookie struggles out, and then still, have the game come down to the wire. But I still feel confident. I still feel confident in the Bears. They have enough weapons, they have a really good roster, and that defense is just so good. It's a top I'm gonna say borderline five, but for sure top 10 lock defense. Um, and so yeah, I just feel confident in them to get the Cardinals offense, to get Marvin Harrison Jr. locked up and just to do enough to keep Kyler Murray off schedule to, maybe I feel like there's gonna be a turnover and I feel like the Bears will win that turnover differential and it'll end up benefiting them into the win.
All right, Stores is on the Bears. I'm on the Cardinals. As the speaker seeker split here, so definitely tune into this game. It's going to be a really fun matchup to watch. It's a very intriguing matchup for me. Going into fantasy, speaking of Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Johnson lined up against him. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. It should be a really fun one. Marvin coming off that solid week. You can definitely be excited to start him. Watch that matchup. That's going to be a great matchup with Jalen Johnson playing the way he is against Marvin, finally starting to turn it on. I think the Cardinals will be passing it a lot in this game. Obviously, James Conner, smash start. Kyler Murray is a pretty solid start just because of the rushing. Trey McBride finally getting that breakout game last week. Got to start Trey McBride. And then I think that's absolutely it for the Cardinals. For the Bears, here's DJ Moore even is a little bit scary for me. I'm not really confident with DJ Moore. Like if you're in an 8-man league, I don't think you'd start him. 10-man league, you could start him unless you have a stacked team. I don't think I'm forcing myself to start DJ Moore until this passing volume goes up. I just think he's coming off two really bad weeks in a row. I'm not confident on DJ Moore, but I mean, in a 12-man league, you probably have to start him and just hope that he gets into the end zone. I'm not starting Keenan or Rome right now at all. And then obviously DeAndre Swift is kind of carrying this team. I mean, he literally carried that entire team against the Commanders and brought them back into the game last week. He's been really impressive, really proving me wrong. So shout out to Swift. He's the best player in fantasy for this team. And then I think DJ Moore is a fine start. Caleb's a real dart throw.
Yeah, 100%. I am very, very worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. against Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson has been pretty locked down all year. I don't even know if he's allowed a touchdown this year to any receiver. Obviously, the Cardinals will find up ways to motion Marvin and get him off of Jalen Johnson. But yeah, I think you said all the fantasy things perfectly. I expect a big game from Trey McBride in this one. I think he's going to really pop off. I feel like, he's just such a PPR merchant. And then, yeah, like you said, DeAndre Swift, he carries this Bears offense on his back. And, the receivers are definitely too suspect to really feel confident in starting.
Yeah, a lot of big time fantasy players in this matchup, so it should be fun. Should be pretty high scoring. They should all come through for you in this fun matchup. Let's go on to the next game. The 2-6 Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go into Philadelphia, play the 5-2 Eagles. Eagles are 7.5 point home favorites. They're wearing the Kelly green uniforms, the most
Oof.
beautiful uniforms in the NFL. So we don't even need to talk about this game. They're winning this football game. They're going to dominate this football game wearing the Kelly green. Eagles by 40, literally no more analysis needed. AJ Brown, Moss in those Kelly Greens. Saquon is going to look beautiful. Jalen Hurts is going to go off again. Devonta Smith, I mean, they're going to go off in the Kelly Greens. No more analysis needed.
Michael Myers Bloody Murder Halloween game of the week, baby. Let's go. And it is perfect in the Kelly Greens. I think Saquon needs to dress up as Michael Myers because I feel a big, mean, monstrous game coming. And yeah, smash play all of them. If you're telling me Saquon's not scoring two touchdowns in those Kelly Greens, you're wrong. AJ Brown is definitely getting an 80-yard touchdown in those. So, Devontae Smith 50-yard touchdowns. Take their overs on everything. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, this feels like everything's starting to come right for the Eagles. This offense is really starting to click. Everyone's getting healthy. So I expect some absolute fireworks for the Eagles in this one. Obviously, you're taking all their overs going into fantasy. We don't really need to talk about the Eagles because you're starting all of those superstars. You literally don't need to talk about it. No borderline options. For the Jaguars, there is some discussions. Brian Thomas Jr., you obviously start him if he plays. It's very questionable. It's about 50-50 if he does play. I mean, you got to start him because they will be down needing to throw the ball. So you would start Brian Thomas Jr. If he doesn't go, I don't think I'm starting Gabe Davis. I think I'd rather start Parker Washington than Gabe Davis just for the PPR floor. He's kind of that Christian Kirk replacement. So I'd be more excited about Parker Washington than Gabe Davis. And then obviously Evan Ingram's a smash start. Travis Etienne, I mean, I'm desperate in the league, so I have to start him because I have no other running backs, but it's very just non-exciting. Tank Bigsby feels like not a good matchup to start Tank Bigsby with Etienne back. So Etienne's just a deep, deep dart throw at running back if you're down bad like I am. in a league. And then obviously Brian Thomas Jr. is a smash play if he goes, and I think that's it.
Yeah, you're banking on that big Brian Thomas Jr. play or getting in the end zone, but he's an incredible football player, incredible receiver, and really the life of this offense. So yeah, I'm only feeling confident in starting him. But like you said with ETN, it's tough. Running backs this year are very tough. They're few and far between and hard to get value out of. So if you drafted, Travis Etienne high, I'm sorry, but yeah, you probably are forced to start him just for the upside.
Yep, and Evan Ingram's a great play. I think he should be scoring like every other week at least, just with no other receivers, everyone hurt in this offense. And I mean, the Jags are in sell mode as well as the Panthers. They obviously traded Cam Robinson to the Vikings. They were trying to trade Christian Kirk before he got injured. So the Jags are in sell mode. They've stepped away. They've checked out. The Kelly Greens will prevail in that matchup. Let's go into the Seekers game of the week here. The 6-1 Detroit Lions are going to go into Green Bay, play the 6-2 Packers. The Lions are 3.5 point road favorites in Lambeau in this one. This is a really, really fun matchup. A few weeks ago, when I saw this on the schedule, I was adamant that I was going to take the Packers. I really was confident that the Packers would win this one in Lambeau. I love taking this team in Lambeau. They always show out in these big games at Lambeau. But with the Jordan Love injury, I do expect him to play. I'm no doctor, but I do expect him to go. And I mean, Jordan Love has just been getting re-injured so easily. Every time he gets sacked, you see him walk all gingerly and limp around. It's pretty scary. So obviously, I am going to take the Lions just because of that. I don't trust that he can even finish a full game. Obviously, if Malik Willis starts, you pick the Lions to win by a lot more. I think it'll be a close game though. I think Jordan Love goes and he competes his heart out, but obviously this Lions offense is looking just too dominant. It's looking historic. It's a juggernaut. Ben Johnson's incredible that he's getting literally every single player on this entire offense involved. Really exciting stuff. So give me the Lions in a really fun NFC North matchup. I think Jordan Love gives it his all, but the injury is scaring me. He's limping around, and it's a little bit too soon to pick him.
And this Lions football team, man, they are good. I think this might be the hottest, best team in the NFL right now. And I'll say it, my power rankings as of this week, I think I put the Lions in that number one seed with that dominating win. I mean, Jared Goff, you sent a text. Jared Goff has only thrown for 28 yards, and the Lions are up 36 points or 20. I can't remember the exact thing, but it was funny. I was dying at that. But yeah, Jared Goff only had to throw the ball. He was like 3 for 4 for 28 yards, and they were up by 28 points. It was ridiculous. So, I mean, on all phases of the ball, they're playing incredible football, special teams, defense. I mean, their running game has just come alive. Jahmyr Gibbs is just looking like prime time Alvin Kamara. It's awesome to see. So yeah, I just think this is the best team in football, and I don't know if they're gonna be beat. So, I gotta ride with my Lions too. And after Jordan Love getting, a little banged up, feel like the Lions are gonna take advantage of that. So, I'm not too confident in the Packers. They're a good football team. I'm not degrading them at all, but this is just a better Lions team.
Yep, just healthier. They're really rolling right now. So give me the Lions. Going into fantasy, you don't need to talk about the Lions because you're starting every single option for the Lions. You can even start Goff. Just start all the lines, especially with no Jameson Williams. The targets are even more consolidated. Probably all of them will score again, just like last week. So really exciting for the Lions. Fantasy options, they're all league winners, which is crazy. Packers, if Jordan Love goes, you can start Jaden Reed in this matchup. They should be passing a lot. You can start Romeo Dobbs in this matchup. Obviously, Josh Jacobs is elevated a lot more if Jordan Love goes, and then Tucker Kraft is a solid dart throw at tight end. It seems like he's scoring every week at this point. Jordan Love, you can start if you're really confident he doesn't get re-injured. If you have another good option, I would pivot away just because of the re-injury. He just is limping, hobbling around. Every time he gets sacked, you're going to get a heart attack. So monitor Jordan Love. Obviously, if he doesn't go, I'm really not starting anyone other than Josh Jacobs. So he changes a lot fantasy wise. But if he goes, you're starting the guys and hoping that you get some nice passing production within this matchup where they should be passing a lot. Jaden Reed, his hype's dying down a little bit. Obviously, he's not getting the target share that you would love. So it is a little bit scary, but you're starting all the guys in this matchup and you're targeting it, and it should be a really fun, high scoring battle. We both think the Lions come away, though.
Yeah, I 100% agree. One guy I gotta throw out there, Dan, just because he's been a savior for me. However, if I'm deciding between Tucker Kraft and TJ Hawkinson, which TJ Hawkinson looks like he is healthy and ready to go. So I think I'm leaning that way. But Tucker Kraft, man, I mean, it kind of feels like he's big player bust, but it seems like he had a big play in almost every single game, you know? In his last, let's see, five fantasy starts, he has he has five fantasy touchdowns. So he scored, against Minnesota, a touchdown, two against the Rams, got shut out and absolutely dominated by the Cardinals, but then two back-to-back weeks of touchdowns again. So I mean his volume's not great, but he does seem to be getting a big play in almost every single game or finding the end zone.
Yeah, I personally, if I was you, if Jordan Love plays, I'm definitely starting Tucker Kraft just because I want to see TJ Hawkinson play a week before I'm just throwing him out there. I think that's a little bit scary just to throw him out there in his first game, 9 weeks in, just to see how much he's involved. He's obviously going to ease his way into a workload with the way that they've been being safe with him in practice. So if Jordan Love plays, I'm definitely starting Tucker Kraft. In this matchup, they're going to be throwing the hell out of the ball, so I would definitely would be very heavily considering Tucker Kraft. You could see a world where TJ Hawkinson scores Sunday Night Football against Joe Flacco, where they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I could definitely see a good week from TJ Hawkinson, but just I'm a little bit conservative when it comes to starting those guys coming back from injury. I benched Puka in a few leagues. That's just kind of how I am, though.
No, 100%, I get it. I think I am leaning TJ Hawkinson because I can just see a Mickey Mouse touchdown because they're just gonna find a way to use him in the red zone. And I feel like the target share is better. But yeah, like you said though, Tucker Kraft, he's just been solid at getting, he's a top 10 fantasy tight end right now. He's good at making big plays, and Jordan Love does like to look his way come the end zone. I mean, five touchdowns in the last 5 weeks is pretty impressive for a tight end.
Yeah, and even Malik Willis threw him a touchdown last week. So he's definitely been impressive. Target this game, though. Take the over. Should be a really fun passing volume game. Really excited for it. Going on to the next one. The 3-4 LA Rams going to Seattle, play the 4-4 Seahawks. The Rams are 1.5 point road favorites. Really like that line. Give me the healthy Rams. I'll get my pick right out of the way. I love the Rams getting healthy. Puka Cup coming off that mini bye after the Thursday night football game should be looking a lot more healthy, a lot crisper, a lot just better because they did look a little bit rusty. Puka looked so rusty. He looked like a little kid coming back from not being able to play football for a year, and he just looked so excited to be out there. But he definitely did look rusty. I think he'll look a lot more sharp this game. Cooper Kupp obviously looked not as dynamic as he was the first few weeks of the season before the injury. Obviously, with his age, it will take him some time to work himself back there. So I do think this game coming off the mini bye, I think those receivers look a lot more dynamic. The offensive line's getting more healthy, so Kyron should be able to eat again as he has every single week. Give me the Rams in this one. The Seahawks have been a little bit underwhelming lately. I don't love the way that they're playing defensively for Mike McDonald. I don't love the way that the offense has been a little bit inconsistent. I don't mind Grubb. I think he's been a fine play caller, especially with DK Metcalf coming back. I think they'll be a lot more competitive. Should be a really close game in Seattle with the 12s, but give me the healthy Rams. I think they're really going to start making a run here with these players coming back.
Yeah, I'm on the exact same page as you. A healthy Rams team, I think, is a scary Rams team, and this Seahawks team, the absolute beating they just took by the Buffalo Bills. I'm not too impressed. I'm not too impressed by that game. I think it showed a lot of weakness. I think, obviously no DK out there was tough for them. I know they get DK back this week, but I'm not there with the Seahawks. I feel like they're either on or they're off. And Sean McVay versus Mike McDonald. I'm having more confidence in Sean McVay. They're getting healthy at the right time. They're heating up at the right time. So again, yeah, I'm with you. I'm siding with you on this one. Give me the Rams.
And shout out to our boy Mike Jarrell. He got a 44.6 PFF grade starting at right tackle for
Hey,
the Seahawks. So until
not in the
he's not
30s.
starting, I'm not confident picking the Seahawks with Mike Jarrell out there. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yep, Mike Jarrell catching strays. Maybe I'll see this. Maybe I'll see this and he'll call you out, Dan. Maybe he'll just like having to run into him on the street and they'll recognize you.
If we get a comment from Mike Jarrell, I'll buy his jersey. I'll live my life for Mike Jarrell. That would be pretty pretty immaculate stuff. So give me the Rams though. I mean, I just think that they got a lot better team. I mean, speaking of Mike Jarrell, Jared Verse has been playing some incredible football. I expect Jared Verse to really wreak some havoc. The 12th highest graded edge rusher in PFF. Incredible stuff. Incredible rookie season for him. He's really proved me wrong as someone I was adamant saying that Latu would have a better, more impactful rookie season, but Jared Verse has been absolutely insane. So give me the Rams. They got all their players back healthy. They're really clicking right now. They got some steam rolling. The Seahawks kind of are the opposite spectrum of that. Their defense has been a little bit underwhelming. Hopefully their offense can click though, and this will be a really fun shootout. Let's go on to the Sunday night football game. The 4-4 Indianapolis Colts are going into Minnesota playing the 5-2 Vikings, who are 5-point favorites in this one. Joe Flacco versus Kirk Cousins. This is going to be a really fun matchup. Let's just talk about it right now, though. How do you feel about Anthony Richardson getting benched? I will just say I have never seen in my life offensive lineman, obviously Ryan Kelly, the center, went out of his way to say that he was really disappointed in Anthony Richardson. He let the team down. He was essentially just kind of talking badly on Anthony Richardson and the decision he made, taking himself out of the game. Never seen that in my entire life, an offensive lineman talking about his quarterback like that. So I do kind of understand it. I don't know if he's ready to lead a team right now. So personally, I think it's understandable. He wasn't playing the greatest of football. He wasn't playing as bad as football as people are making it out to be as well. It's kind of in the middle, but obviously Joe Flacco does give them the best chance to win. The front office doesn't want to get fired, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing. I mean, there obviously is the giant high hopes and everything, and maybe Anthony Richardson just wasn't ready. He's a very, very raw prospect, and well, again, he wasn't ready. He was not ready for what the NFL is. And yeah, I mean, subbing yourself out of a game for being out of breath is a little ridiculous when you can walk back to the huddle, take a breath, and get out there, and make a play for your teams. But yeah, it just kind of seems like Anthony Richardson does not really care. He's terribly inaccurate. There's a lot of work that needs to happen with Anthony Richardson. So yeah, I think this was a move that should have been made a couple weeks ago. I think once Joe Flacco went in there and played competent football, they should have just said, "And this is going to be a learning season for Anthony Richardson. He's going to sit behind Joe Flacco, a veteran presence. He's going to learn how to properly run this offense. He's going to, he's going to see." And you know, whether people agree with that method or not, Anthony Richardson's not ready to start. He's not an NFL, talent. He's not an NFL quarterback at this point. He can't go out there and he's not a franchise quarterback, and that's what you're expecting him to be. And he's not that. His accuracy is terrible. I feel like he's lost locker room at this point. So Anthony Richardson needs to grow into a football player, an NFL player before he can start. And I applaud, the organization for doing it. I know it's a tough decision when you take a quarterback so high to bench them. And I get that people are afraid it's going to, crash his ego or, make him sad. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Joe Flacco gives your team the best chance to win on Sunday. So you start Joe Flacco. And I'll just say it right now. I'm happy, man. I'm a Josh Downs owner, and I think Josh Downs can be a top 15 fantasy football player going forward with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is a veteran quarterback. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He saved the Browns organization last year from Deshaun Watson. And, now with the Colts, they could, the AFC is competitive. That's what people aren't realizing right now. The AFC is a very competitive conference with a lot of teams with a lot of losses. So the Colts are very much in this playoff race. And so Joe Flacco actually gives you a chance to make the playoffs. And, a very, very smart decision by the ownership, by the management. I think this was the right move.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if Anthony Richardson was playing in this game, I would say the Vikings might have the snot panning of the week, the Michael Myers bloody murder game of the week, and it would be a domination. But with Joe Flacco playing, I think this will be a back and forth, close down to the wire game. I really do. I think it'll be a very, very close game, a trap game, absolutely, for the Vikings. I think they'll rally around Joe Flacco and play very solid for Indianapolis. That being said, give me the Skull home field advantage to kind of prevail in the end, though. I do think the Vikings end up winning this game. Their defense is just incredible. Brian Flores is doing incredible stuff. I think Joe Flacco will be able to throw on this defense, though. I think Joe Flacco is going to have himself a nice game. And obviously, like you said, going into fantasy, I think Josh Downs is a top 20 receiver in fantasy. I'm ranking him over guys like Tank Dell, who's kind of the wide receiver one in his offense. I think this Colts offense is going to be throwing a lot. So I'm very excited. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor might be a league winner with the way that Joe Flacco checks the ball down to running back. So really exciting stuff for the Colts fantasy wise, and just, their game should be very competitive every single week. They'll be playing for Flacco and he'll be playing for them, just playing really hard, tossing the rock like he does, obviously leading the Browns to the playoffs last year. Going to be a really fun matchup.
Yeah, 100% agree. But yeah, this should be a back and forth one, you know. I think all the fantasy options are a lot more intriguing in this one. And you know, I was very excited to start the Vikings defense, and now I'm very scared to start the Vikings defense. They are a top three fantasy defense right now. However, I just feel like this momentum and the team's going to play extra hard for Joe Flacco. So I'm a little bit scared. But however, with my pick'ems, I am going to pick the Vikings. I feel like they are just the better talented roster. Their defense is so hard to play against with Brian Flores scheming up. So he'll make it difficult on this Colts team, but it is going to be a close game. And I could see this being a trap game. I have to ride with the Vikings just because I know they are the better football team, but it could be a trap game, man. It really, really could.
Yeah, gonna be a fun Sunday Night Football matchup. Now with Joe Flacco going into fantasy, we already mentioned it a lot. Josh Downs is just a smash start, set and forget, locked and loaded receiver. You got to start him. Michael Pittman's still a little bit scary. I think you can start Michael Pittman, just the lower tier of an option. He is a secondary option at receiver, so I think he can be started with Joe Flacco. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's a league winner, and I think that's it for the Colts. Not starting Joe Flacco in this matchup. Specifically for the Vikings, I think it's just Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones. I think no, Sam Darnold, not Aaron Donald. Sam Darnold's a fine dart throw to start in your lineup in this matchup. Should be some passing touchdowns involved here, but I think it's really just Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones that I'm excited about.
What about Jordan Addison's tweet? Does that give you any incentive? I'm definitely not starting. I'm a Jordan Addison owner, but I want to see if you think that tweet and him being frustrated in his role in this offense could get him some more volume.
I feel like it might hurt him, honestly, because he was already getting a lot of volume. That's the thing. Like, I feel like I was pretty happy with Jordan Addison's volume, and he just obviously wasn't getting big plays with it. But I mean, I'm not like down on Jordan Addison. I think he's still a nice fantasy asset to have. I thought everything was going good, so I don't know. I think it's a little bit overstated. Apparently, he's been tweeting that for years now, and it's just his saying or whatever. So I'm not really worried about Addison. I don't think he's a star right now. It's got to be kind of proven, but it's not a bad matchup for him. TJ Hawkinson, like I said, I could see him scoring, but personally, I'm a little bit conservative with guys coming off of, their first game back from injury in a while, coming off a bad injury. So personally, it's just those two that I'm really excited about. Those other two are kind of just dart throws.
100%, 100%. It's going to be a fun game. I could see this one, even with a good Vikings defense, I could see both teams scoring 20 plus points.
Absolutely going to be a fun back and forth matchup. Let's go on to the last game of the week. The 4-4 Tampa Buccaneers are going to go into Kansas City, play the 7-0 undefeated Chiefs, who are 9-point favorites at home. A huge line in this one. The Buccaneers have been really fun. They've been competitive, but give me the Chiefs to really just dominate this game. I think the Chiefs have a breakout offensive game here. I think their offense finally clicks. What, 9 weeks into the season, and I think they have their breakout game through the air. I think they really just passed the hell out of the ball against this Bucks secondary. I think Kareem Hunt has a nice game. Just give me the Chiefs to score a lot of points in this one. I think the Buccaneers score a lot of points. I think it could be a high scoring shootout, but I'm pretty confident the Chiefs win this game. Don't know if they cover that large spread, but they definitely could. Obviously, with all the injuries on the Bucks, it's going to be really hard for Baker to carry this team over his undefeated Chiefs team at Arrowhead in prime time. Give me the Chiefs. Kind of straightforward. I think they're going to really start to shine on offense.
I don't pick against the Chiefs, man. I do not pick against the Chiefs, especially a 7-0 Chiefs. So, as long as they're winning, I'm going to keep picking the Chiefs. I will not pick against this franchise. It doesn't matter what you think of their team. It doesn't matter if they're run first. It doesn't matter who they are. They will find a way to win football games, and nothing's changed. So, it's the same old Chiefs. They are already a playoff lock. They will make the playoffs. They will be competitive in the playoffs. It's the same old Chiefs. And Buccaneers, they can put up points. Baker Mayfield is fantasy quarterback number one still. He still had a pretty good game without his two top weapons last week. And I expect him to score points, but when it matters most, the ball is going to fall in favor of the Chiefs. And I have 100% confidence in that. This is obviously a lock of the week for me. I can't pick against this team.
Can't pick against the Chiefs. Maybe if the Bucks were fully healthy and rolling, I would pick them, but got to go with the Chiefs. Obviously, it's kind of a lot going into fantasy. Speaking of locks, you're starting all the Chiefs options. They're locked into your lineup. I just think there's going to be a shit ton of passing volume in this game. I think DeAndre Hopkins could be a decent play in this specific matchup. I think Xavier Worthy could get a few big plays here. Obviously, Travis Kelce's a smash start. So I'm really excited about all the Chiefs options. Honestly, I think Kareem Hunt has a really big week in this matchup. So give me all the Chiefs, really. Maybe even Mahomes is startable in this specific matchup, might be his best fantasy performance. And then Baker Mayfield, you can start a little bit scary, but I mean, he's going to need to pass the hell out of the ball in this matchup. So Baker could be started. Kate Otton's a smash star. I think he's a top tight end play, really. You just know he's going to get 15 to 20 points, which is very rare to say for a tight end. So Kate Otton's my number one play for the Bucks. Rashad White, Bucky Irving, a little bit, scary with the way that they split, but I think they can be started with just the passing volume that they're going to get. And then my other borderline option would be McMillan. I'm not touching anyone else, but I think McMillan could be a nice dart throw in a deep league.
100%. I think you just hit the nail on the head with that. Should be I think, I think you do target this game from a fantasy aspect. I think, all the weapons should be scoring in this. I think Jalen McMillan is a good play this week. I think he's going to get his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And like you said, Rashad White and Bucky Irving, I think Bucky Irving's just running really good on the ground, and Rashad White's getting enough volume through the air to both make him very fantasy relevant. So I'm on the same page there.
Yeah, and Bucky's getting a lot of receiving work finally as well. So they're both just good starts. Target those games, start everyone. It's going to be a lot of passing volume. Really exciting game. Let's get a spooky hot take before we get out of here. Let's get a spooky exit hot take for Halloween.
Give me Adam Thielen coming back from the dead and having himself an absolute resurgence on the year for fantasy football. Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson's gone. They need somebody to throw to. Give me Adam Thielen coming out of the grave for a spooky, spooky hot take. We're back to the Panthers hot takes, baby. It only took 9 weeks, but give me Adam Thielen having himself a game and finishing out the season strong for the Panthers as their wide receiver one.
Adam Thielen league winner hot take. That is very frightening. Not gonna lie, that is a very spooky, scary hot take. I love it though. Panthers. Shout out to the Panthers fans. Thank you guys for tuning into another NFL Seekers podcast for week 9. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.
Peace.